All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Chris Baroni. I'm with the Lakeland Darrow Country Club and Homeowners Association. I just wanted to put out an update video, but first, before I do that, say thank you for coming to the channel. Please don't forget to subscribe so that way you'll get a reminder whenever I do an update. But also, don't forget to like the video. I think that helps in many ways. Anyways, so today I kind of wanted to go over a few things that were brought to my attention and are very important. So those things are going to be Lakeland Darrow Homeowner Association bank accounts, who's involved and why, where is the Lakeland Darrow HOA money, and then why is it there, and some changes that were made at the club, the reasons why, and then I'm going to try and give you guys like some, if I think I can do it on YouTube, some documents that would probably help solidify what I'm saying and give you guys the clear, honest, and unadulterated truths as I know them. I also am putting this on YouTube forever because I have nothing to hide and nothing to, as you guys know, to lie to you about. I know that that's hard for the other side, a few of them on the other side, to believe because of what it is and what it represents to them, which is something that they wouldn't do. Okay, I want you to know that the first and foremost, the money that was taken out of the union bank account was done so with prudence and lawfully, legally, of course. And what happened was Lordon Management early on in the year had withdrawn $300,000 out of our account and then deposited $270,000 out of our account. Many of you are going, Chris, we never had that kind of money in it. Well, you're pretty much right, not in any one account, and never told us about it, okay? And then when I called them out on it, they said, oh, well, you know, our secretary just accidentally hit an extra zero when she was trying to transfer $30,000 into the the account that was the reserve account. Okay, I believe it. That wasn't my point. My point was, how in the hell could anybody have taken that kind of money out of our account? That was something that we should have authorized with a check. You all didn't know that Gloria Melching and Don Melching, Donna's parents, and we didn't either, never saw where it was, were on our account and transferring money in and out of it. Regardless of the error, the bigger concern was, who the hell gave them permission to get into our account? So we spoke about it. We let them know that we were concerned, we wanted them off the account. They never took Don and Gloria off. Now, I've never met Don, never met Gloria. I don't know why the hell they're on the account. Never knew, nobody ever said, and it wasn't disclosed, and I'd love for them to show us, because I'm sure if it's somewhere, it's probably in some tiny print somewhere. But anyways, the thought that somebody could even be on our account as a signer who the board didn't authorize is freaking dumb. Shouldn't even have to ask that question, okay? That being said, we decided to do was because we knew we were going to be terminating the relationship with Lordon. I actually told Lordon in an email months before to find us 3 new companies that could take over for him. Well, instead of doing that, what they did was started doing a sloppier job. And then they started plotting this coup d'etat. And in plotting the coup d'etat, one of the things that they did was help our former PEO, which was kind of like our human resource and payroll people, work with one of our employees to take 8 weeks off without ever saying a word to me, and then have me do all the work. That should have gotten me to quit, really, or so they thought. Unfortunately, it didn't. Taught me a lot about the course. Probably made Jerry mad a little bit. Jerry, I love you. But I was always in his backyard working on hole 1, and we've had more than a dozen conversations, not all of them agreeable, but they don't have to be. And he knows why, because I know he is a good man. And I know the people who are knocking on his door almost all the time. So over that course of 8 weeks, that I did everything I could because there was only 2 of us running the course. And we had quite a few problems because, one, I never imagined that that was going to happen. And 2, the employee never said whether or not they weren't going to come back. So I anticipated that they would and then found out that they didn't. And before he didn't come back, Lordon had set up the second coup d'etat, which was the one in which they invited said employee to a meeting at the club with Michael Allen and Hal Siegel and didn't tell the rest of the directors except David DiNapoli on a Tuesday when we normally have our legal meeting. Well, the trick was to tell David that that meeting was going to be held at the club. Dave shows up, myself, the other 2 aren't there. They have a quorum of directors. The coup d'etat was to give, and I have the email, that employee all rights to his own staff, his own money, and then his own golf course, okay? The employee shows up. Don is on the phone. Shelby's at the club. The coup d'etat doesn't work because David never shows up. They don't have a quorum. Once David would have showed up, they could have voted and had a majority vote 2-1 to let that happen. That's coup d'etat failure number 1. Shelby Wagner, Michael Allen, Hal Siegel, Lord Management. Now, over the course of the entire year, we've obviously received a ton of complaints about Lord Management. I heard everybody complain when we hired him, didn't you look at the record? Didn't you look at the record? And I said, well, of course. They definitely came in with what was the best overall deal, which is what we were looking for. We also were assured certain things, and to be quite honest with you, and I said this before, is it was like good first 5-6 months. They did a really good job. They failed in some areas, but listen, it was a tough account to take over. I think we all should agree with that, and they did a fairly good job. What started happening that began the process of the breakup was they began not making payments long before any claims of there was this much money out. We were never in financial trouble. We're certainly not in financial trouble. And although they went back to trying to use an accrual method with good reason, and that reason was to try to make the board look bad. The reality of it is they stopped paying people. And what Lordon Management does, and I hope their attorneys and everyone's paying close attention, Don, Gloria, Donna Lee, Shelby, Jennifer, the board, pay close attention because here it comes. The reason why Lordon Management isn't paying a lot of the bills isn't because we didn't have the money. It's because that they're stealing from Peter to pay Paul. So what I mean by that is the reason $300,000 was able to leave our account, $270,000 to be able to be deposited back in, is because Lordon Management is a custodian on all, 50 HOA accounts? Is that right? Shelby, Donnelly, is that right? And so what they're able to do is they take that pool of money and they're able to use its resources throughout all of Union Bank to put wherever they want. So let's say that they want to use money for HOA number 22. Lordon was finding a way to invest money, that pool, somewhere else, either into another HOA or into another vehicle for investment. And that was the reason why they were choosing and handpicking which ones they didn't want to send it to. Debate me on that. Attorneys, send me a letter. Then, when they were handpicking all of it, I imagine they were handpicking a bunch of them from a bunch of different places to accumulate whatever amount of money they needed. Remember, they have like 50, I think, plus accounts. We had money. We had money last month to pay a very good vendor of ours the $4,000 they owed. They're not getting it. It was due in November. They're not getting it. You guys got to see at the end of every month, we'd have somewhere between $60,000 and $30,000 was the lowest I think it ever went in our operating account. And rightfully, some people would ask, well, why aren't we using it? Because the board never had the authority. Well, they had the authority, but it didn't matter. Lordon was going to pay whoever the hell they wanted to, whenever the hell they wanted them. So here's what Lordon does. Instead of setting up like we all have a bank and then we send out our bills like through a bill pay, Lordon doesn't do that. They may on some accounts, but they don't on others. And that's what was interesting. So had they had used bill pay, we certainly would be able to access that and then be able to see when payments were actually sent. But because it works out so conveniently that they can just say it was, hold on to that money, not answer to it for another month, or 2 months, because imagine how many checks they've held back and not sent. And don't believe because it wasn't, we didn't have money. At the end of every month, like I said just a minute ago, we had, and in fact, I think it was more. It was like, I think the lowest we had was 30. I think the most we had was like 100 and something. So even in these last couple months, we could have paid off the $4,000 to that vendor. Why haven't we? Because they've already allocated it. That's why. They also, as many of you can tell, were holding off on a dues check since July. I think it was July. Anyways, it was a dues check for, I think it was $15,000 we were agreeing to put in there, $30,000 we were agreeing to put in there. Well, they acted like it was out there, but they had known that that obviously was money we had used to be putting into the HOA through investment and through efficiencies. But they held it out there. Why? They knew it was already gone. They didn't have to. They could have simply taken it off the books like it should have been. You guys know what's going on here. Vant Systems, the security system that I think someone had mentioned about, Vant said that we weren't paying them. And the gentleman's name from Vant is Dirk and Kathleen. They have quite a bit of history going back with GPL, by the way. I found out talking to Dirk and a few others. So anyways, they set up a system. Vant ends up telling me that we don't pay their bills. I was like, yeah, come on. You know that we pay the bills. It's just Lordon sends them. No, he said to me that Lordon pays the bills. It's under Lordon's name. You sure? Yeah, he's sure. And then I hear that from somebody else too. And I'm like, I wonder why they're doing that. Well, the reason why they were doing that was to hold a disproportionate amount of influence over our own vendors. Okay. So it's similar to who's paying for the locksmith. Well, we know that the board can't because the money's in Chase. Lordon's paying for that. They know it. We know it. And who's paying for all the attorneys and stuff? Well, Lordon's doing that. How do we know? Because the locksmith in the prior video you see says, I'm only going to give the key to Shelby. Well, why would he say that? Because that's who he thinks and he knows is paying the bills, right? I mean, otherwise you'd have heard, Michael Allen speak up. Well, one of the things and one of the reasons why you don't know all of this is because he knows and they're playing the coup d'etat together. Now, mind you, this is after many complaints about Michael calling him up, yelling at him, and then writing out, things and saying things. Everyone disliked Lordon forever. So Lordon then goes ahead and is sending out all of these checks depending on who they want to send them to. Well, we end up getting terms with Wolk and Levine, who's our attorney. And I sent them a letter 3 weeks before it was due and said, hey, make sure we follow these terms and get the discount, which was, I think it was somewhere like around 10%, net 20. Okay. It was great. We had the money, we could do it. Well, all of a sudden, time comes, and of course, the payment's not made. Wolk and Levine take back that money, say, hey, you got to pay the full thing now. I say, hey, hold on. I've threw up my hand, said, this isn't right. Lordon, you screwed this up. And Lordon then, makes the payment a couple days later. We go back and revisit this, and Lordon lies almost about the entire thing. They say they fire one of their employees because of it, whatever. And then our attorney, I think Wolk and Levine, ended up crediting us back, thankfully, because it was a couple days late. Then about a month or two maybe later, what happens is Lordon Management sends another late payment to these guys. And then I would say within maybe a couple weeks, we start getting messages. And one of the messages from Wolk and Levine was they wanted I think they called it a Greenfield retainer. Something like that. God, I think Greenfield's coming back from another industry. Anyway, something like that. It was actually just a retainer, but she had some name for it. And bottom line was, we were like, well, what's that for? Well, she's like, well, we've taken on, Sarah Wolk says, we're taking on a few new cases. We just want to have, money for it. And I said, doesn't make any sense. You've had these cases for forever. Why would you want to take on a new retainer? We don't have the money to be dishing out. Well, we do, because we had $200,000 in the reserve, but I'm not taking that money out. That money's, sacred. We don't take that out unless it's absolutely necessary. And one other thing that was interesting is that when Mike and I went to Wilkin Levine's office, we were specifically told prior to getting there that part of the Evergreen, not Everfield, but Evergreen retainer was based on the fact that we had made a late payment once or twice. And we told them that had nothing to do with us. That late payment was made because of Lordon, but, give us a, little bit of credit here. And when we brought that to Donna Lee's attention in an email, it was funny because I think they then had a little chat on the phone and came back where all of a sudden the answer that came back from Sarah was somewhat neutered compared to what she was telling Mike and I. So it's not too surprising that now the two have kind of teamed up because both were put on notice. Both knew their days were numbered. And now look. And so we say, hey, we're going to get another attorney. So we start talking to another attorney, and he starts talking to Wilkin Levine. And then Wilkin Levine kind of coalesces and says, hey, I said, well, let's talk, because Mike and I and the board and the legal committee decided we were going to have to, part ways. We're just not going to get strong arm like that. Well, they ended up saying, well, hey, listen, if you pay us $5,000 extra for the next 4 out of 5 months, I think is what it was, then we'll use that. And then that'll cover. Now, that wasn't acceptable to me, but we accepted it because, listen, we're right in the middle of a couple lawsuits that are pretty heavy and important, so it made sense for us to do it. And so right now I'm going to go ahead and kind of end this video portion here, because that kind of touched on the Lordon side that I wanted you guys to hear about. And then I'm going to make another video about Wilkin Levine and what's going on there. All right, stay tuned. Thanks for watching.